Last week, my parents phoned me asking me to come down this past Friday, as they wanted to talk to me about something important and preferred to do it face-to-face. I agreed and came down Friday and we talked. My parents said that they've been delaying doing their wills for so long and decided it's finally time to get their affairs in order. I have a brother who's older than me, but he's autistic, and I don't know if nonverbal's the right word, as he can say only a few words like mom and dad, and although he's 26, it's more like he's a 10-year-old if that makes sense. My parents told me that they've got some plans to go into the will, and they've said their plan is if one of them were to die first, then my brother will live with the lone parent part-time and a care home or assisted facility part-time to give that parent a break. Then if the lone parent dies, the plan is for my brother to come and live with me, and they'll set up some trust so that each month, whatever he inherits goes into living cost. For example, if he inherited $100,000, not the actual amount, a trust would have been set up, and $1,000 would come out each month to cover his living cost. I said my brother has the mind of a 10-year-old because he can't do anything without the help of our parents, like getting him dressed, cleaned and ready, and helping him with tasks and activities. My family members take turns at the weekend to have him, so my parents can have a break to relax and recuperate. I know it's wrong of me, but I'm not emotional, and I'm not sympathetic. I said to my parents that I was not giving up my career to look after him, and when they both died, I wouldn't be taking him in. My brother-sibling relationship is non-existent, and I don't feel equipped to look after him. I'm honest and will say he would feel like a massive burden to me. I voiced my reasoning to my parents, and I thought they'd be more understanding. He's better off in a place where people can help him and know what they're doing. I'm not prepared to give up my career or anything for him. I also stated to my parents that I was more than happy to give up my half of the inheritance so the money could go on making sure he's looked after, like setting up a trust fund so that if they died, he went into an assisted living facility and his bills are paid and there's an allowance for him each month. My parents are completely upset with me and are disappointed in me for this. I feel justified, but now I'm wondering if I've been a total witch and an idiot when it comes to this. Not the idiot. Their planning has no business, including you. You are your own person with your own life. Suddenly becoming a full-time caregiver would be exhausting. Your plan of giving up any inheritance is well thought out. Your brother would thrive in an assisted living environment. I've seen all of this before. My neighbor's daughter moved into a group home in her 20s. Her mom calls and visits several times a week. She has a set routine. She gets up and gets ready. She has her friends. The group home has regular outings, trips to the park, walks, shopping trips, movies, etc. They go to museums. When she came and visited her parents for the holidays, she told me she was just visiting her mom and dad because she's an adult and lives on her own. She liked her independence at moving into an adult care home. This is the way. The staff are much better at day-to-day enrichment than our parents ever could be. Social Security and state programs might even cover the group home. It's interesting how the parents thought of scenarios where either of them would pass away, but there doesn't seem to be any mention if anything happens to OP, which renders them unable to take care of anyone. It seems like OP is plan B, and there's no plan after that. Exactly. They seem to think that OP may not want to get married, have children, or have her own life. They had a second child to be the caretaker of their first child, and that's the only reason they got pregnant. Honey, your parents need to make realistic plans. Not in my Disney fantasy. Our other kid agrees to take an adult-sized 5-year-old for their entire life. My mom died when I, male teen, was 6. I remember her, but I don't remember her as the mom who did stuff with me. She got sick when I was 4, so I remember her sick. I used to sit with her in bed and she'd read to me and stuff, and she'd sing and brush my hair. I have long hair for a guy and always had, and she'd listen to me talk, and sometimes she'd tell me stuff she wanted for me. My mom had a lot of jewelry. Her engagement ring and wedding rings, a charm bracelet that she had since she was a kid, a locket, a heart necklace, a birthstone necklace, and some other items. Mom wrote in her will that I was to get them all. I used to wear one of her necklaces, and I'd hide it with my clothes. But then my dad remarried and stuff got awful. The jewelry had been in my room, and suddenly it was stored in the attic. Then my dad had a daughter with his wife, and suddenly there were whispers about the jewelry. She's a pre-tween now, and there's been more talk lately that she should get some of Mom's jewelry. My dad has said he would like her to have a piece or two, that he wants to include her in his old life and show he loves her just as much as he loves me. He often tells his daughter that my mom is sort of like her aunt, and she would have loved her, and she'd be so glad his little girl could wear her jewelry. I told my dad it wouldn't happen, and all of it was mine, like Mom wrote in her will. My dad was always like, it doesn't have to be a fight. We can discuss it more over time, and maybe let his daughter see it so she could decide if she likes any piece in particular. My dad's wife told me it would be a beautiful symbol of our family being truly united. She spun this idea that the story was that I wanted my baby sister to have a piece of my mom and to share my mom with her and prove that I love her as a sister and not just a half-sister or a daughter of my dad, and it would be the most incredible story ever. She said it would make her daughter feel so special. I freaked out that they would give her something against my wishes. So I spoke to someone I trust, and I got the jewelry out of the house with said person. I trust them 1,000,000%. My dad didn't notice for a while, but then when he was getting the Halloween decorations down, he was like, what the heck? He asked me where I put them, and I said he would never know. His wife was angry, and she told me I had destroyed what could have been a beautiful gesture and story. My dad told me I was a selfish little brat and how disappointed he was in me. He said he wanted to share a piece of Mom with his daughter, and why couldn't I let him do that with one single piece? I told him because the jewelry was mine. Mom wanted that. He said taking it out of the house behind his back was still wrong. He grounded me for a couple of weeks because of it. He's still mad at me too. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. His new daughter has nothing to do with his old wife. Tell him to open his wallet and release the moths to buy something for her if he feels compelled. The fact that your mom had to leave her jewelry to you in her will says she knew your dad would pull this. My husband would give every bit of jewelry to our daughter if I was gone. No will needed. I'm glad you were able to salvage it before they stole it from you. That's what they were going to do. That was a gift from your mother to you. That's all you have left of your mother. These items have special meaning to you, not to your half-sister. I'm glad you found someplace safe for them. Don't give in. His grounding you because you wouldn't give up your mother's things shows how little he cares about you and that your half-sibling is more important. This sounds like an attempt to appease a jealous wife to me. If the jewelry is super nice and valuable, that would make sense. OP, your stepmother's not interested in a beautiful story. She's interested in getting her daughter a nice little valuable item as an investment. They have no claim to it, but I'd deposit the jewelry into a bank ASAP to be on the safe side. I, 51 female, have a son, 29, and he has a fiancée, Jen. They have an infant daughter, Lily. She also has a pre-tween son who's not my son's child, but I still consider him my grandbaby. I used to get along well with Jen and told everyone she was like a daughter to me, but when she got pregnant, she started acting weird toward me. I asked to be in the room for delivery, and she said a clipped no, despite letting her son's dad's mom in the delivery room for his delivery. No big deal, it's her choice. But when I went to visit her in the hospital afterward, she acted really put off that I was there. I figured she was just tired and left after 20 minutes to give her space. But then it continued. I've stopped in to see everyone about 5 times since she had the baby, and every single time that I walked in, she gets really quiet. Whenever I'm holding the baby, she hovers. She keeps snapping at me over small things, like how I'm holding the baby. I had her on her belly on my arm, or sideways across my knees on her belly, because she's crying. Obviously, she doesn't like that, so stop. Or snapping at me for things I say to the baby. Like when she starts fussing, I said, "You won't get your own way with me. You can't play me like that," in a baby voice, trying to calm her. And she goes, "She's 4 weeks old. How exactly is she playing you?" Then she got livid and kicked me out of the house one time because she picked up the baby for making the smallest of noises. I told her the baby was going to get used to being held all the time if she kept doing that, And she said, well, it's a good thing she's my child, and I don't have to listen to your BS. Well, I went there on Thanksgiving, and apparently it was her mother's first time meeting the baby. And of course, the baby was all smiles and loved her grandma. But when I got the chance to hold the baby, she immediately started screaming and was promptly taken from me. I feel very slighted. I asked my son if he would bring the baby to visit me without his fiancée, because I feel like his fiancé's attitude toward me is the reason why the baby screams every time I hold her. I think she's picking up on the hostility. I don't know why she dislikes me now, but asking her currently would be pointless. He told me he absolutely would not bring his daughter to my place without her mother because he wouldn't do that to his fiancée, who has never been away from the baby thus far. I told him they were purposely ruining my chance at a relationship with my granddaughter, and he said that that wasn't true and that I needed to stop pushing my old-fashioned beliefs, which was the first time I'd heard of this. Am I the idiot for expecting him to bring my granddaughter to me without her mom so I can have a relationship with her? You don't know why she dislikes you? Have you never heard anyone say you were pushing your beliefs before? Really? Because I've been reading this for 30 seconds and I know exactly why she dislikes you. It's because you're pushing your beliefs on her. You are the idiot. You are never entitled to see a baby without his mother. You're making this whole situation about you. Did you catch that she stops in? It sounds like she's not invited, and she's showing up without notice at a house with a newborn. I would be unsurprised if OP's also the type who thinks she's helping when she's doing what she wants and not what's needed. I felt secondhand embarrassment just reading this story. How embarrassing to be so out of touch and push harmful parenting practices. Seriously, telling a newborn that they won't get their way with you and can't play you is pathetic. And who cares if daughter-in-law picks her up for small noises? It's literally been proven that you can't spoil a newborn. You know darn well you're the problem. They've made that abundantly clear with what they've told you when you visited. Stop acting like a victim. No one's buying a darn thing you're saying. You must be an insufferable mother-in-law, and that's what the baby's picking up on. Get a clue. So my daughter, young grammar schooler, is a very picky eater. Not in the sense that she'll pout and whine if she doesn't like what's on her plate, but more like she'll throw up and have something resembling a mini panic attack. Because of that, whenever we have our weekly dinners with my husband's side of the family, my mother-in-law will make a separate dish for my daughter that she knows she'll like. My daughter hates most spices, so most of the time, no one else wants her food, so there's no need to make it a dish for everyone. 2 days ago, we had our dinner, and we were running a little late because it had been a bad day for my daughter, and we were both irritated at that point. When we got there, I saw my nephew, Teen, eating my daughter's food. I knew it was hers since she was having a completely different dish than everyone else. And my mother-in-law had told me what it was and sent me a picture to show my daughter since it was a new recipe she was trying. My daughter also saw it and started bawling. It was a very hard day for her already, and I guess this was what finally broke her. Everyone came running into the kitchen to see what was happening, and when my sister-in-law saw what her son was doing, she immediately scolded him, but the damage was done. I gave my daughter to my husband and asked him to wait for me in the car. Once they left, I snapped at my nephew that just because his parents never taught him to shut his mouth for a little while doesn't mean he can just eat whatever he wanted. He knew it was my daughter's food. He knew how she was about food, and he still chose to eat it. I gave my sister-in-law a hard look and left. Everyone had been bombing the family group chat, fighting over who was in the wrong. Edit. By my sister-in-law scolding my nephew, I meant that she pointed at my daughter's food, told him not to do that next time since it's his cousin's food, and lightly slapped his wrist like he was a 5-year-old. Also, my daughter's food was on the other end of the counter, so no one would get confused. Am I the idiot? You are the idiot. It was up to your sister-in-law to deal with her son. You keep your big mouth out of it. Plus, you don't even know what precipitated this, as you weren't there. You were late. It was your mother-in-law's dinner to serve, so she should have said something about this. It's daughter's food, please don't eat it. It was sister-in-law's job to ensure her kid had manners enough to know not to eat someone else's food. Above all, it's sister-in-law's responsibility to deal with her son and for you to keep out of it. Get your kid checked out. Picky eaters don't vomit. She may have something medical going on. As the parent, if it's that important to your kid, you should be the one bringing and preparing her solo meal. It was gracious of someone else to do it, but it's your job. Everyone's the idiot here, but I don't know your nephew's intention. I doubt you do either. It could have been an honest mistake, but you blew up at him, and it sounds like you didn't give him a chance to explain himself. If it was so important for OP's daughter to eat a special meal made by the grandmother who had been excitedly texting her pics of said meal throughout the day, a parent should have brought it and cooked it? Bring and cook a meal someone else has already cooked and sent pics of? Bring and cook a meal made by grandma? Just how? Oh, and they dragged sister-in-law into it by giving her a hard look after she had already dealt with the situation. But yeah, OP did nothing wrong. LMAO. I think one of us is intoxicated, my friend, and I'm pretty sure it's me. Basically, I, female 27, have two sisters who I'll call Bianca, 29, and Julia, 26. Julia's dating Christopher, male, 30. This is super cliche, but we've known Chris since we were kids. He used to be best friends with Bianca, but they lost contact when he graduated a year ahead of her and moved. Julia ended up meeting up with him via Instagram earlier this year, and they're dating now. This weekend, me, my girlfriend Julia, Bianca, Chris, and Bianca's new boyfriend were all hanging out, just drinking and talking. And Bianca and Chris started talking about crap they got up to as kids. My girlfriend joked that it was like Little Women because she's a nerd, the Joe, Amy, Laurie thing, I guess. And I said, I always thought Chris and Bianca would end up together. Chris made some joke like, nah, she's too good for me, and we moved on. However, Julia was quiet the rest of the night and is now mad at me. She asked me before she left why I'd say that, and she looked like she would cry. Bianca says she isn't getting involved. I don't know if I should apologize. It was honestly just a joke. Our mom even teased them about being so close and said it was like a Taylor Swift song or something. But I don't know. Am I the idiot? You are the idiot. If you don't get why your sister was hurt, I don't get how anyone could explain it to you. It's just a joke is a poor excuse when someone's feelings are truly hurt. And in reality, it's not a joke. You all used to think Bianca and Chris would end up together. It's a fact you blurted out. This and Chris kind of didn't help by putting his foot in his mouth and being like, oh no, she's too good for me. I would be like, does that mean you're settling for me because you can't get her? I could be reading too much into it, but the whole operation would make me feel like absolute garbage. LOL. Yeah, I thought that was the cause for the quietness. She's too good for me, so I chose the second banana. I honestly hope she broke up with him. I'd be so heartbroken if my boyfriend would say some crap like that. OP, you sound very immature. Stay out of your sister's relationship and stop bringing up unnecessary things from the past. Grow up. Update. I did apologize to Julia. We had breakfast earlier this morning. She said she knew I didn't mean anything by it, and that Chris's comment was what really hurt. She said that they'd argued about it and was still hurt, but she didn't want him to think she was insecure. Thanks.